Tuesday, back in studio, Austin Stanley and Zach Bingham. And today we are talking about some new humors out there as Hugh Freeze rumors are starting to swirl early this week regarding both the Tennessee job and the vacant Auburn job. Gus Malzahn fired on Sunday at Auburn, and this bill for Auburn might be $30 million once you include Gus Malzahn's $21 million buyout and then the entire buyout for the coaching staff. So we'll discuss what is coming up, new reports, new rumors concerning Hugh Freeze, who's stuck in the middle of this, the head coach at Liberty. Liberty, by the way, reportedly also just selling its soul for football. If Hugh Freeze leaves, they're thinking about going to Art Briles, which is just like even shadier than what they've been doing with Hugh Freeze the last couple of years.
Well, look, Austin, Alabama, Nick Saban's been helping guys get out of their other situation that they've screwed up.
Well, yeah,
years.
but as an analyst,
they need a lower tier guy.
But as an analyst, I mean, now Liberty's just saying, screw it. Let's just go hire the most controversial guy we could possibly find. And look, it's working out for Liberty. They make a bunch of money. Liberty's the biggest university online in the country. I don't think people recognize that. That's why they have so much money to go out and pay Hugh Freeze and maybe pay Art Briles. But we have a lot to talk about here with Hugh Freeze. We got a big deal, small deal, no deal question for you guys in this show near the beginning. Then we'll talk about Auburn versus Tennessee, which is the better coaching job, which I'm curious to get all of our viewers' opinions on that. And then Vandy being Vandy. That's apparently Zach's opinion as Vandy hires Notre Dame defensive coordinator Clark Lee. That became official last night as AD Candace Story-Lee tweeted out that anchor crashing down on the pavement. Will they ditch or will they continue anchor down as their mantra that makes no sense? That's another topic that maybe
it does make sense, but you don't like it because you're a Tennessee guy.
No, it doesn't make sense. They're anchoring down, which is near the bottom of the SEC. They should be anchors up.
Tennessee fan.
They should be anchors up. No. Several people agree with me on this. Anyway, then we've got
Tennessee fans. Be quiet.
No. There's some non-Tennessee fans I know for sure that think anchor down is ridiculous. Regardless, we've got Trivia Tuesday. We need to build on our 7-3 week last week. So we have a packed, loaded show for everybody this morning.
Yeah, so before we get started, we're sports fans here. I have to say this because last night, if you watched Monday Night Football, that was the best football game of the season. That reminded me from a couple of years ago when Mahomes went out to L.A. and him and Goff got into a shootout, but it was a weird running shootout. You had the high drama of the Browns coming back, Lamar Jackson's cramps, and then just an unbelievable finish. And here's my hot take of the day. I love the Monday Night Football crew. Like, bye-bye Booger and Joe Tessitore. I like Steve Levy, Brian Greasy, and the third analyst,
Louis Riddick.
And Louis Riddick.
You love him so much you don't even know his name.
Look, he blew my mind. But those three guys, I am all on board on that. I thought Monday Night Football, they didn't go get the premier guys. They got guys that are just quality. Monday Night Football last night, if you're a football fan, you enjoyed that game. That's what I do have to say. Before we get started, though, bottom right corner of your screen, if you're watching on Periscope/Twitter, you'll see those three little dots. You can share the broadcast that way. Share the broadcast by simply pushing those three buttons and, boom, retweet the broadcast to pop up in your Twitter followers timeline. Also on Periscope, on Twitch, on YouTube, and on Facebook. More people will pile in over the next 5 to 10 minutes. And as you do, please share the show. Bottom left corner of your screen, share now to public. Let's get this party started. A lot to discuss. And this is tough, Austin, right? Because Jeremy Pruitt is still the head coach of the Tennessee Volunteers. We've got to fully disclose that. But we're a sports talk show. We can do whatever the hell we want, and we can talk about whatever the hell we want. Today, we choose to talk about humors. Hugh Freeze rumors.
Yes, humors. All right, let's get it going officially. Welcome into A to Z Sports. I'm Austin Stanley. He is Zach Bingham. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at A to Z Sports. You like our Facebook page, A to Z Sports Nashville. We are Nashville's on-demand sports talk network, and we go live every weekday morning at 8 Central Time. Got to thank our sponsors. They make it happen for us, and they help out you guys. Renters Warehouse Nashville, renterswarehouse.com to find out how much your home can rent for. Mandu, the pulse of fitness, where one 15-minute workout equals 5+ hours in the weight room. Mandu.com. Your first workout's free. The Tucker Agency. If you want to save money on your personal insurance, it's simple. TuckerTN.com. Calvin and Subtle for your new hardwood floors and finishings. They are at calvinandsubtle.com. And the Bone and Joint Institute, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. boneandjointtn.org. So, Zach, outside of that highly entertaining game on Monday Night Football last night, and where I grew tired of Lamar Jackson poop jokes by 6:15 this morning, Vandy makes a hire with Clark Lee. We will discuss the Vandy hire later on in the show with what Clark Lee makes us think about what Vandy is doing with their football program and get your opinion with that. But Hugh Freeze rumors, Zach, and with the firing of Gus Malzahn, I find this interesting. Remember about a month plus ago, we did 4 coaches on the hot seat, and we listed these 4 guys: Pruitt, Mason, Malzahn, Orgeron.
We have our answer.
Ed Orgeron saved his job by beating Florida. No doubt about that. I don't think he was as hot as you had him. But the 2 guys in the middle, Derek Mason and Gus Malzahn, fired, and a lot of money being paid out by Auburn to fire Gus Malzahn.
Yeah, and so we got our answer. Obviously, Derek Mason fired because he couldn't win a game. Gus Malzahn, look, he had been on the hot seat before. We all remember that Les Miles versus Gus Malzahn game where Auburn backdoors a win. LSU fires their head coach, ends up getting a national championship. On that show, and I'm glad you brought that up, my theory was that more was going to come of the allegations of LSU not properly taking care of business when it came to sexual assault accusations.
Yes.
But that has since kind of died down. We'll see where that goes after the season. Sure. But that big win against Florida definitely helped. So those 3 guys, we all kind of know where they are. The one Lone Ranger is Jeremy Pruitt. You know, the season is yet to be over because of the COVID protocols earlier of shifting games. So Tennessee, I don't really know what they're going to do. Philip Fulmer really hasn't said much. They beat Vanderbilt, but I don't think in any way or form that Tennessee fans want to beat Vanderbilt or should have beat Vanderbilt, a very bad Vanderbilt team. And so where do you stand? Because Hugh Freeze is out there, Gus Malzahn is now out there, and Jeremy Pruitt has had a disastrous year.
Yes,
and stone cold facts.
And I said this Saturday night in our Big Orange postgame show with Jonathan Crompton that I don't think anything Tennessee did on the field Saturday at Vandy did anything for Jeremy Pruitt's job security. I thought the way they were only able to score 5 touchdowns on 15 offensive possessions against the Vanderbilt defense that only had 18 scholarship players, that's not enough. And the constant and consistent mismanagement of the quarterback position is as bad as it's not going away. And it reminds me of really what Derek Mason did early in his Vandy career of mismanaging quarterbacks, pulling guys in and out, no rhythm, like making no sense of it, not having guys prepared to play. Jeremy Pruitt feels in over his head. Now, here's the thing about Hugh Freeze, because as soon as Gus Malzahn was fired Sunday from Auburn, and Auburn's going to pay him $10 million in the next 30 days and over $21 million in this buyout for the entirety of it. But here's what Bruce Feldman tweeted on Sunday. Auburn's head coaching job coming open is not the news you want if you're at Tennessee. Some of the top candidates the Vols are eyeballing will definitely be in play for Auburn. Now, I think this tweet is interesting because of some of the top candidates the Vols are eyeballing. So
it insinuates.
Yes, Bruce Feldman is super connected. And Bruce Feldman, and talking about Hugh Freeze, Tennessee eyeballing candidates while Jeremy Pruitt is still the coach. Look, if you're an athletic director and you're behind if you fire your coach and then start your coaching search. You have to always be prepared behind the scenes. Keep a file on your computer of coaching candidates, up and coming names, because if you start your search after you let the guy go, you're in big trouble. You're trying to play catch up. So maybe Tennessee is doing the right thing by eyeballing candidates while Tennessee is still has a coach.
Yeah, but let's get to the real Hugh Freeze rumors, because that's what the people are here for. Let's pay them off.
All right, so yesterday morning, I see this tweet from Jeff Erman, who works for 24/7. He runs the Maryland site. So I didn't think too much of it, but it is interesting. Connecting SEC source thinks Hugh Freeze waits for Tennessee to come open because he's tight with Gus Malzahn, and thinks Mario Cristobal or Kevin Steele is the guy for Auburn. Fun time of year. Absolutely, it is a fun time of year. So what we do know, Zach, is we do know, because the Arkansas State connection and other connections, that Hugh Freeze and Gus Malzahn do have a friendship. Now, would that friendship keep Hugh Freeze from taking the Auburn job? I tend to discredit that. I think if Auburn offers Hugh Freeze the job, he's thinking about that job, not about being buddies with Gus Malzahn.
Well, all fair is in love and war and football coaches. And I'll tell you why. There's a great example. John Gruden just fired his best friend, who is his defensive coordinator, this week. They best friends, okay? Best friends. Fired his ass. So that doesn't matter, right? And Hugh Freeze, look, he's had his fair share of ups and downs when it comes to decision-making in his life and his coaching life in that regard. But look, I think that this is very interesting, because if you're Tennessee, you want Hugh Freeze. I've said this, and I've stated this on the record months ago. I had to make a decision, and finally I did. I went to Ole Miss. I watched every single game Hugh Freeze coached for Ole Miss. Hell, I broadcasted a game Hugh Freeze coached in high school, in the state championship game. So things go back far for Hugh Freeze. Now, he's had definitely a fall from grace and having to build him back up. But Tennessee is at the point where they need a proven commodity. And that is what Hugh Freeze is. Hugh Freeze is a proven commodity that has won in the SEC at Ole Miss. Granted, he cheated. Then he's won at Liberty, and in an impressive fashion, very similar to the way Lane Kiffin went down to Florida and proved his worth and his value to get another head coaching job. And I think Hugh Freeze benefits from Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin is a success story in the last 365 days. He's a media darling. Ole Miss loves him. And you forget about all of his, ups and downs, you could say, through his coaching life. Hugh Freeze, I think, is going to benefit off of that. I think Tennessee needs to sell their soul, and it's time for a change, because you don't want to be left in the dust, as you've said so eloquently so many times. Tennessee doesn't want to be left behind while everybody else is getting better, and they are still figuring Jeremy Pruitt out.
Yeah, and here's another thing, because I mentioned with Jeff Erman's tweet where he says that Hugh Freeze is waiting for Tennessee to come open. Another well-connected person for AL.com is John Talty. He says from him and his colleague there that Kevin Steele, who has been the D coordinator for Auburn, has emerged as the serious candidate for Auburn's head coaching job, maybe even the lead candidate, and that multiple sources have also said they do not expect Hugh Freeze to get the job. So if you pair John Talty and Jeff Erman together, you get that Hugh Freeze is not going to Auburn. And Hugh Freeze not going to Auburn is music to the Tennessee fan and football program's ears, because it would suck so bad for Tennessee to just wait for Jeremy Pruitt to either figure it out or not figure it out and blame COVID and allow him to have a fourth year while Hugh Freeze goes to Auburn, takes a team that Gus Malzahn just went 6-4 in the SEC. Like, Gus Malzahn maybe it was time for him to lose his job. You can argue all that stuff that it was time for Gus Bus to go. But he still went 6-4. There's lots of talent on that Auburn team. Did they underperform this year? Sure, absolutely. But that team can compete with a right head coach next season. So now let's ask you guys a question and get you all more involved this morning. And we want to know this, that the rumors that Hugh Freeze is, quote, waiting for Tennessee, is that a big deal, small deal, or no deal? That Hugh Freeze is, quote, waiting for Tennessee. But first, let me tell you guys about Renters Warehouse Nashville, the professional landlords in the Nashville area. RentersWarehouse.com is where to go to find out how much your home can rent for. There's so many different ways you can use Renters Warehouse. One of them, if you're actually looking to rent a house, or maybe you're currently renting and want to rent a better home or cheaper home, RentersWarehouse.com can help you out there. Also, if you want that extra cash flow, that extra mailbox money, RentersWarehouse.com can become your ticket to earning that long-term equity with being a rent estate mogul. RentersWarehouse.com is where to go.
And don't forget, Vol fans, Titan fans, we've got a promo code for you, mybookie.ag, code MyTitans. That right there will help you, and they'll give you even more money that you deposit. Code MyTitans at mybookie.ag. All right, so the question that we've asked you guys, big deal, small deal, or no deal, Hugh Freeze rumors, I like to call them humors, that he's waiting for Tennessee. That's what's been swirled around. Now, look, in today's age of media, it's tough to tell what's right and what's wrong, but some notable sources we're referencing, right? I mean, these guys are not just, college students working for, whoever. These guys have some credentials, and I do think it carries some weight. So let's read some comments. Big deal, small deal, or no deal about these Hugh Freeze rumors. Dude, yes, says small deal. G-Man on base says big deal. Kelkin says no deal because I don't buy it. And look, that's a gut feeling.
And that's something you always have to remember with coaching searches is who is saying these things to these reporters.
Right.
And agent, because I talked almost nightly about the Vanderbilt job, and it was always every conversation about that job with people that I know involved so-and-so's agent or this agency. So remember where you think it's coming from.
C. Smith 0607 says very big deal. John Michael Presley goes big deal. Definitely a big deal from Big Ten Jeff. No deal from Allen. Small deal from Puka. Rob says no deal until we know Pruitt isn't coming back, which is fair, right? Jeremy Pruitt is still the head football coach of Tennessee. Jason says it's huge. Zach says small deal. Mark says big deal. We want Freeze at Tennessee, which I think a lot of Tennessee fans do. Michael McDonald of the Doobie Brothers says big deal. Alex says big deal. Donald says no deal. Brent says big deal. Steve says big deal. Kale says big deal. So look, this is why I love the show, right? So we ask a question. And Austin and I, we prepare. We don't just come on and turn this thing on and be like, hey, guys, what you want to talk about? We don't do that. We actually think about these questions to see whether they are good, bad, or indifferent. This shows me, Austin, we had the right question this morning because there is a bevy of different answers and different philosophies and different emotions from a lot of fans.
Yeah, for sure. All three answers have been well represented here. So, Zach, my answer to this is small deal. It's a small deal because Hugh Freeze waiting for Tennessee makes me feel like Tennessee could take that and be like, let's just wait to see if Hugh Freeze is waiting for Tennessee, then we can see if we can wait for Jeremy Pruitt to have a year 4. That's how I feel about this, because how many jobs are open right now? If Hugh Freeze is not going to Auburn, where is Hugh Freeze going this year? If Hugh Freeze is not going to Auburn, where is Hugh Freeze going to go this year?
Nowhere.
Exactly. So it's a small deal to me because I think that means Phil Fulmer will say, well, if he's going to wait, Tom Herman's not leaving Texas. Jim Harbaugh, I don't think Hugh Freeze in Ann Arbor, Michigan feels right. It doesn't make a lot of sense. It feels like a misfit there. But I think Jim Harbaugh is probably going to stick around because he's got one more year left on his deal, and Michigan will just allow that to expire and save cash. So Hugh Freeze will stay at Liberty if Tennessee stays closed. The only way Hugh Freeze moves this year now is if Tennessee fires Jeremy Pruitt. And I don't think Philip Fulmer wants to fire Jeremy Pruitt this season. I feel confident saying that. I think boosters around Tennessee are getting antsy and would like to move on from Jeremy Pruitt. But it's up to Philip Fulmer. for the most part. Now, can he be peer pressured into firing because the big money is telling him to do so to go get Hugh Freeze? Maybe that's the case. But I say small deal. I think Hugh Freeze stays at Liberty and Tennessee stays with Jeremy Pruitt for one more year.
All right, so I have a couple things. You brought up some interesting points. Let's start with the boosters, and then I'll get to my other philosophy, because I really think that Philip Fulmer needs to think about this. But as you said about the boosters, and you referenced it earlier in the show, Jeremy Pruitt's management of these quarterbacks were trying to win games instead of build for the future, right? He never really – I mean, if Harrison Bailey – no, but if Harrison Bailey is the guy, then he should have started Harrison Bailey and stuck with Harrison Bailey instead of JG for the first half of the year. He should have, once Harrison Bailey, like Arkansas, they should have, right before the bye, go through and play Harrison Bailey. But instead, he played musical chairs. He gave Stroud an opportunity, JG an opportunity, Harrison Bailey an opportunity, Brian Maurer a spot. And that is not good for the future, right?
Let's think about this.
You just don't know.
Yeah. Over the last 2 years, how many players have taken a snap as the quarterback for Tennessee? Jarek Garantano, Brian Maurer, JT Shrout, then Harrison Bailey, Jawan Jennings, and Eric Gray. 6 guys. No, but those last 2 guys took snaps out of necessity because they did not feel comfortable with their quarterback situation. Eric Gray's different. Jawan Jennings last year, they had to go to that because they felt like they needed it. And that is just because Jeremy Pruitt does not know how to manage quarterbacks. He might be I think Jeremy Pruitt is, and you can call him this, a great defensive mind and a damn good national championship level defensive coordinator. But it does not work for Jeremy Pruitt when he is trying to be the CEO of a program. That's not how his mind works right now in his career.
Well, and that's not his job, right? The problem is his job is to be a head coach. So you are criticized and you are justified on how well you are a head coach.
Right, the CEO.
Yeah. So here's my other philosophy, and you kind of mentioned it. Here's my struggle. It's a power struggle. I think you're right. I think Philip Fulmer wants to keep Jeremy Pruitt. I think that that Philip Fulmer is a loyal VFLer. I think that he cares about the university. He's an old school mentality. He's not one of those guys that pulls the trigger. He's not a millennial. He's not the scrolling type. He likes to sit there and say, hey, let's see how this works. One COVID year is not indicative of truly how a head coach is. Now, you and I both agree Jeremy Pruitt ain't the guy for Tennessee's expectations. So here's my glass half full on Hugh Freeze optimism take. Here's why you go hire Hugh Freeze. Hugh Freeze has a connection with Tennessee. Last year, the reason why, or 2 years ago, Dan Mullen went to Florida because he had a connection with Florida. He was the offensive coordinator at Florida. He had been to Gainesville. He had experienced that lifestyle. He lived in that city.
He understood it.
Yeah. Right? Hugh Freeze, now here's the benefit, has a little bit of that. He's been to Knoxville. He knows some of the culture. He knows what it is. And he truly knows what Tennessee represents in the college football community within the state and within the country of what it could be. I believe that's a benefit for Hugh Freeze. So if Hugh Freeze, who is the darling this year, right? Everybody wants Hugh Freeze. Why? Because he is an offensive mind. That's the hot hand. We'll talk about what Vandy did a little bit later on in the show. Here's the issue, Austin. What's going to happen next year, right? So this year, you got Hugh Freeze as the number one guy. Now Gus Malzahn is out there, so we could talk about him. After next year, you know what 2 programs could be opening up? Texas and Michigan. Now, all of a sudden, Tennessee, in a year this year where there's not that many head coaches fired because of COVID and other reasons, now Tennessee is probably top 2 on the totem pole because of Auburn now. But Auburn, by the reports, as we said, it's kind of moving more possibly to Kevin Steele as emerging as a serious candidate. So we'll find out from that. Tennessee does not want to be in a head coaching search against Texas and Michigan. They'll lose every single day of the week and twice on Saturday.
And Rob brings up maybe LSU.
And who knows about that? I don't think that would be the case, but maybe Michigan and Texas are more likely, right?
And Virginia Tech as well. And I'll say this. I think Virginia Tech will come open this year. But I don't think Hugh Freeze is going to Virginia Tech.
No, I don't either. So what are you going to do? You've got to really make a decision. And as Bruce Feldman had mentioned, what Auburn's head coaching job opened up is not the news you want for Tennessee. Some top candidates that the Vols are eyeballing, right? So that tells me that Tennessee, Bruce Feldman is connected. He tells me that Tennessee is eyeballing candidates, right? Looking around. Hey, look but don't touch. That's what they say. Tennessee's looking. I think this is a big deal. Okay. I think that the rumors, because of everything that I've just said, I think the Hugh Freeze rumors to possible Tennessee is a big deal because I think boosters are growing tired of Jeremy Pruitt and how he handled this season, his demeanor, and kind of where he's been. And once you lose the confidence, the vote of confidence from the fan base and the boosters of Tennessee, you might as well dig your own grave.
All right, A to Z Sports. I've seen some good comments, some bad comments, and some terrible comments. I'm going to read all three of them. But first, Zach, tell the people about Calvin and Settle.
Yeah, Calvin and Settle is where you need to get your hardwood flooring. This holiday season, think outside the box and call 615-448-6414. Maybe it's not, your traditional Christmas gift, but you've been stuck in your house. Maybe upgrade the equity of your house. Your whole family will love it, including your wife. You'd be like, great idea. Maybe we need to get some new hardwood floors up in this bad boy. Rip up that old carpet that our dog's been peeing on over the last several years. Let's instead of cleaning the carpet, let's replace them with brand new quality, cost-effective hardwood floors. 615-448-6414. That's 615-448-6414 or online at calvinandsuttle.com. Right there in Middle Tennessee, they can hook you up.
Don't forget mybookie.ag, code MyTitans right there to get you some money after your first deposit. MyTitans and mybookie.ag. So I'm going to read some good and some bad comments. Richard on YouTube falls under the good comment. I would take Gus Malzahn over Pruitt. At least he can ruin Georgia and Alabama's year from time to time, which he has done. And Gus Malzahn has accomplished way more than Jeremy Pruitt. He's an established head coach in the SEC. Rob, another good comment. Why waste money on revamping a coaching staff? Another good comment here is that Rick says, I can't believe I'm saying this. I agree with Zach. Alex had another good comment. Says Pruitt cannot make the tough decisions to be a head coach. I agree there. Some that fall under the bad comments. James says, why is Chaney not held accountable for the offensive woes? Get rid of Chaney and hire a stud to OC. Well, you Tennessee fans were upset with Tyson Helton in year one of Jeremy Pruitt. And they said, get rid of Tyson Helton. And luckily, Tyson Helton got a head coaching job and got rid of himself. And then they're like, hire a stud OC. And you hired a stud OC in Jim Chaney, paying him $1.5 million. Now, 2 years later, you're saying Jim Chaney needs to be held accountable, fire him and hire a stud OC. At what point does the revolving door of offensive coordinator problems become the head coach's problem? I say now. It's Jeremy Pruitt's fault that the offensive coordinator is on the chopping block from the fan base, because I've seen Jim Chaney be a good stud offensive coordinator at multiple other SEC programs, including a stint at Tennessee. I've seen him do it at Pitt in the ACC, and he did it at Purdue in the early 2000s in the Big Ten. Like, Jim Chaney is not the problem. Now, let's get to the terrible comment that I wanted to bring out here. And that comes from my guy Cody saying, Austin talking about Tennessee is nauseating, can't take off his orange glasses. So Cody, what have I said in the 29 minutes that we've been live that have been anything with orange glasses?
Honestly, and usually I would call you out. I thought you've been pretty clean today. You've been clean all show.
What have I said? I've said nothing that could be considered you're wearing orange tinted glasses. That's ridiculous, Cody. Cody's just upset because on Twitter yesterday, I said that I didn't like the Clark Lee hire, and Cody's a Vandy fan. And there's so many.
We'll have Cody will get his day in court here later on in the show when we talk about what Vandy did or did not do, maybe more importantly, with their coaching hire. But no, I think you've been clean with your orange glasses. You haven't put those bad boys on. Here's what you did bring up a point. Yeah. I have two questions. The first one is, what's the last Tennessee quarterback besides Josh Dobbs that you're willing to ride with?
I would have loved to see our guy Jonathan Crompton with Lane Kiffin and Jim Chaney for multiple years.
That didn't happen.
Yeah, it didn't happen. Crompton's got 1 year with that coaching staff, and he threw 27 touchdowns. Lil Dude 52, I don't know if that's a Lamar Jackson joke or not, but Lil Dude 52 says Tyler Bray. I think Tyler Bray was firepower. I think Tyler Bray or Eric Ainge are the last two guys who have done it for multiple years. But Bray is the most recent.
Okay.
And it wasn't Tyler Bray's fault. Tyler Bray put up crazy numbers in 2012 and 2011. Now, did he have some moments where he ruined games, and did he quit in a game potentially against Kentucky? Yeah, maybe. But that wasn't Tyler Bray's fault that their defense gave up 40 points a game.
Okay, the reason why I asked that question, that was 2012. Okay?
Yeah.
That was 8 years ago.
Well, you removed Josh Dobbs, who was a starter for 3 years.
No, I understand, but that's been the problem. But Josh Dobbs didn't lead them to where they wanted to go. Let's just be honest.
I think he saved them for where they were destined to be.
But he didn't lead them in 2016 to where they wanted to go. Maybe it was because of Jalen Hurd. Maybe it was because of Butch Jones.
Yes.
Whatever. But in 2016, they should have won the East or gone to a Big Six bowl. They had the opportunity, but instead they lost to South Carolina and Vanderbilt. Here's where I'm saying this is the method to my madness. You don't need Jeremy Pruitt. Pruitt is not fixing the number one issue that is pretty obvious to a football team. Yeah. If you have a quarterback, you can win football games. Look at LSU last year. Look at LSU this year.
Look at North Carolina.
Great example.
With a true freshman last year and a sophomore this year in Sam Howell.
Right? Great example.
Who this Tennessee staff did not think was good enough.
So the two guys maybe we're talking about, at least one, let's just keep it to Hugh Freeze.
Okay.
Hugh Freeze has proven, and I've heard you bitch and moan about quarterback development so much that I am you don't like me talking about how badass A.J. Brown is. I don't like you talking about quarterback development for the Tennessee Volunteers because I've heard that for a decade or at least 8 years that I've known you. That's the issue. So you need to bring in somebody that can develop a quarterback so you can get where you want to go instead of saying, you get a snap, you get a snap, you get a series, you get a series, you get a start, you get a start. Yeah. That's what Jeremy Pruitt has been doing over the last, eight games. And I can't take it anymore, and I'm not even a Tennessee fan. Yeah. So God knows what Tennessee fans are going through. That's why they need a quarterback, you call him guru, whisperer, whatever, that can actually help the offense, and then you go out and get a defensive mind to help the defense.
Because what have we learned from our guy Crompton this year is that Jim Chaney is not a quarterback coach. Jim Chaney is a good play caller. But just because you're an offensive coordinator or a play caller doesn't mean you're a quarterback coach. The Titans have Arthur Smith. He's not a quarterback coach. Is he a good play caller? Yeah. But that doesn't mean he can develop a quarterback. When Crompton was at Tennessee, Randy Sanders and Lane Kiffin were the two quarterback developers that he thought were the best during his 5 years there. And so Tennessee has had Chris Winkie, who can't do it. We know that. So it's time to get somebody else.
I got to give the love of the show.
Okay.
Love of the show is going to Periscope today. Sometimes it goes to Facebook. So it's B-Hall who watched the show.
Had some good comments
today. Yeah, and he's getting the best comment of the day because and B-Hall's a Tennessee fan. When a fan gets to this point, it's time to move. It's time to move on. B-Hall says, Jeremy has made me not love watching football. When you get your fan base, and I know B-Hall's not the only Tennessee fan that feels that way, right? If one coach, which he's the head coach, gets a fan base or a handful of fans of a fan base to not like watching football because their team blows so hard, there's your answer. Strike, great, right? B-Hall queued it up, but this is – and Philip Fulmer really needs to take the temperature of his VFLers, right? He has to take the temperature of the room so he can make the adequate decision to change that for the fan base. Also, the worst part is there's zero excitement heading into next season. Maybe you get a freshman quarterback that probably Pruitt's not going to play because he's not going to be ready, right? So what's the excitement heading into this offseason and into 2021? And God knows everybody in this effing world needs some excitement in 2021.
Yeah.
So that's where Philip Fulmer really needs to listen to this show and really get the temperature of his fan base to say, look, guys, Hugh Freeze will completely change that for every single person in this virtual room and in Knoxville, Tennessee. You may not like his morals, but you know what? You can get over that if you're winning football games, something that has not happened in a very long time.
Yeah, so Jason Lloyd, who also said he's checked out of Tennessee, and you see his emoji right there, his Facebook, whatever, is wearing a Titans jersey. He says, I think Fulmer is loyal to a fault. He took his own firing so hard, there's no way he fires Pruitt unless forced to.
Fair.
I totally, Jason, I totally agree with that. I think Philip Fulmer believes to this day he was fired too soon, which was after 17th year. But to this day, he feels like he was fired too soon. And so he will not fire somebody too soon that he doesn't believe. But and I want to go back to a comment. I want to see if I can find it. I'm going to have to scroll back up because somebody was absolutely dead on, and I want to give credit. Jason, he says, Tennessee isn't committed to winning football. And by allowing Jeremy Pruitt to go into year 4, it certainly feels that way. Because look at what Auburn just did. By paying Gus Malzahn over $21 million to go the hell away, that tells me that they are more committed to winning at football. Now,
8 years and 4 years different. Yeah, so apples and oranges. I can't get on board with that.
Zach, $21 million for a buyout that could go up to 30 considering his coaching staff.
They held on him for 8 years, though.
I understand that.
All Auburn fans, they were tired of Gus Malzahn.
Oh, I get it. But
your point is moot. I'm sorry.
I don't think so. That Auburn firing a coach and paying him and his staff up to $30 million to not be there proves a level of commitment that they want to win games.
Well, no, because Tennessee has pressure, but their rival in the state blows, which is Vanderbilt, who can't win a game.
Trevor, thank you.
Auburn's rival in the state is Alabama, so they have to keep up because you can't go to house divided Thanksgiving dinners and hear Bama Shane jab your ear off about how badass the Tide are and how bad Auburn sucks. Yeah, that's really what gets to Auburn, the pressure. Tennessee's pressure is self-induced.
Yeah, okay. Well, we got an all vol here says, that some boosters paid that, right? Not Auburn University. Of course. But Auburn, that's how buyouts work. Boosters donate money to the university. University uses money to pay buyouts. So that's how that works, and that's not a secret. We all get that. And Jeff Rubel says that I'm just making the money. I'm talking about the money aspect. Yes, the financial commitment to winning at football is what I'm talking about. And then Trevor brings up the football actual reason of this. The saying that Florida fired a coach that he just went to 2 SEC championship games with Jim McElwain. He didn't go to 3. He went to 2 in 3 years, and they fired his ass because it wasn't going far enough.
So let's get to the point of why Philip Fulmer would fire Jeremy Pruitt. Well, it starts with losing to Georgia State and embarrassing the entire university to start the season. Now, did he amend it by winning 8 games that year? Yeah, I think he did, right? He went on a hot streak. He beat teams he should have beat. He had an unbelievable comeback, weird win in the bowl against Indiana. But how is his recruiting going right now? How is his quarterback situation right now? How is this year's team right now? How do the fan base feel about him right now? All of these things, I think, have to come into consideration. Is assistant coaching moves or changes the remedy? And Philip Fulmer just has to ask himself that. And again, I look towards the future. I don't look towards now. I don't want to be in a coaching search with Michigan and Texas.
I agree.
Because Tennessee, every year, and guys, you're not going to like to hear this, but I am the reasonable guy when it comes to Vol talk because I don't care. I don't have a dog in the hunt. Look at your last coaching searches, guys. Nobody wants to go to Tennessee. You've gotten to 6, 7 coaches that have said no, 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 no. You don't, and this is a year where you could probably get the best coach, Hugh Freeze. Now, again, shaky morally, but you could get the best coach to say yes once. Next year, if you go up against Michigan and Texas, you're going to get no, 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 no again. And you're going to get the same results. This is the year to pounce. I'm on record. Austin, you have to go get Hugh Freeze now. And I hate to – that's cold, hard truth, guys. This is not a knock at Tennessee. It's just the facts.
All right, A to Z Sports, do we agree? Usually go to ask. Yeah, I do. A to Z Sports here live on this Tuesday. Let's ask this question because I find this very interesting. Zach brought this up this morning in our pre-show conversation. What's a better coaching job, Auburn or Tennessee? And we'll discuss this. But first, let me tell you guys about the Bone and Joint Institute. Whenever that injury in life happens, make sure you get the best coverage and the best care possible. And that is at the Bone and Joint Institute in Franklin, boneandjointtn.org, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. That facility you see right there on your screen is gorgeous. It's a state-of-the-art facility. They have everything in there. They do the surgeries there, the rehab there, everything, the testing, everything right there in one spot. They don't have to send you all over town to get an MRI and an x-ray and have the surgery here and the rehab there. boneandjointtn.org.
I got to call out Cody real quick before we get to our question. Cody on YouTube, thank you for watching. But he says, really, guys? So if Pruitt wins 10 games, beats Florida and Bama, then it isn't okay. Cody, that's literally like me saying, what if I just go to the gas station, buy a lottery ticket, win $255 million, and then quit the show tomorrow, right? There's just no probability to that. It's 0.000001. Cody. So you don't throw out irrational what ifs. Like we throw out what ifs, right? And we try to make them in some sort of spectrum. But that is the most ridiculous thing that I've ever heard. And I've said, if I win the lottery, and Austin knows this, I'm going to give him some money. I'm quitting the show. I just have no use for you. But that's not going to happen. First, because I don't play the lottery. And the second thing is Jeremy Pruitt ain't going to win 10 games and beat Bama and beat Florida. Wake up.
Well, and other Cody says that's what he was talking about earlier. Your point about not getting the main head coach guy. He says that's what I was talking about earlier. What makes you think a top tier coach wants to coach there? Hugh Freeze. Hugh Freeze has been reported by so many people that says that Hugh Freeze is waiting on Tennessee. Cody, get with the damn show. Have you followed what the hell we've been talking about for now 42 minutes?
Austin versus Cody, round 2.
I don't understand. Listen to the show. Read the tweets. I'll put them up there again, damn it. I mean, why do we have to continuously do this? Jeff Ehrman from 24/7 Sports, connected SEC source, thinks Hugh Freeze waits for Tennessee to come open. He thinks because he's tight with Malzahn, fun time of year. Then once again there, Kevin Steele emerged as the top candidate for Auburn. Don't expect Hugh Freeze to get the job. So, Cody, pay attention, bro. Keep up.
All right, question. Auburn or Tennessee? What's a better job, Austin? I'm curious to hear what you have to say right now.
What's a better job? I think Auburn's a better job. Now, they've been able to have high. Auburn is a tougher job than Tennessee. I think they're really similar. They're kind of, if you guys have not listened to the Big Orange podcast on our A to Z podcast network from this week, Charlie Burris, I thought was going to have an aneurysm as he reacted to the Gus Malzahn firing. It was a very entertaining listen, but they were talking about this. Tennessee and Auburn, they're not quite Spider-Man meme pointing at each other, but they're pretty close. They're both at the highest, the third tier program in their division. Auburn is behind Alabama and LSU. Tennessee is behind Florida and Georgia. Whatever order those two teams are, Auburn and Tennessee is third at the very most. And the thing with Auburn, though, that makes it a harder job is they've got Alabama sitting in state. Tennessee doesn't have that.
Right.
So Tennessee has an easier path to reaching its ceiling, but Auburn is more likely to get there. Auburn has shown you as recent as 2017, that they can win their division. Tennessee hasn't been able to do that since 2007. So Auburn is the better job. You're in a more fertile recruiting area. You have I think the competition with Alabama forces Auburn to be better. Tennessee does not have that in state with Vanderbilt. And I think the administration at Tennessee has gotten complacent with 8-9 wins. They're complacent with that, which should be unacceptable. Auburn just proved those standards that Tennessee has is unacceptable. That's why they're paying Gus Malzahn $21 million to get out. Auburn's the better job.
I'm going to actually disagree with you. I think, and you brought up some good points. Auburn can't reach its ceiling because of Nick Saban.
But it can.
Tennessee, I think,
done it twice. It's gone to the SEC title game 2 times during Saban's reign. And it played for a national championship during Saban's reign.
And they lost.
It's actually they've played for 2. They've won 1 and lost 1 since Nick Saban won his first national title at Alabama. So Auburn can. Now, with where Saban's at right now,
Auburn is right now?
But Auburn and Tennessee are not close. Auburn is so much further ahead than Tennessee.
But they have to play, and here's the hard part. Who does Auburn have to play? Now, Tennessee has to play Alabama every year.
Same guys. They both play Alabama. They both play Georgia.
Right, but LSU is involved.
Tennessee plays Florida.
A&M
Tennessee plays Florida. Right. No, Texas A&M is the one strong thing in the West that the East doesn't have.
Right, but I would say, look, Ole Miss is getting better. They're not great. They're getting better. Arkansas, I think, proved a little bit that they're getting better. Mississippi State, I don't think is. They're trying to figure out their scheme and all that. You look at the East, I would prefer to be in the East and compete with the right coach.
I agree.
With the right coach. And I believe this. I don't know why. I believe with the correct coach changing and having the correct culture at the University of Tennessee, they can thrive because this fan base will support you. It will if you win games. But you can't make bonehead decisions on 4th down against Arkansas to lose you the game. You can't lose to Georgia State and lose all credibility with the fan base early on in your coaching career.
Absolutely. Yeah, no doubt.
Program. So Jeremy Pruitt has done a lot of this maybe to himself, but I think with the right person, Tennessee is the better job because Tennessee is waiting. It's kind of like the 27 dress bridesmaid, right? She's going to treat you the best. Why? Because all of her friends have either gotten married or divorced or both, right? She's experienced it. She's waiting on it. Tennessee fans are waiting for a winner. And I believe once they get the correct head coach, they find the right person, they'll thrive.
I still think Auburn's a better job.
But no, Tennessee, we have never seen the capacity of truly how to recruit in this era of football.
Right.
We haven't had the right. The small portion that we did, which Butch Jones, the top 5 class, God, he just wasn't the right coach. You get the right coach like Hugh Freeze. Look at what Lane Kiffin has done to Ole Miss. They were 57th to start the year. Now they're top 20 recruiting. They're flipping everybody.
Very flipness, right?
Right. So I thought about this long and hard. That's why I thought we created the question at the beginning. I think Tennessee is the better job. They just have to find their guy, and Jeremy Pruitt's not it.
But they've whiffed on Dooley, they've whiffed on Butch, they've whiffed on Pruitt. There's
but
3.
Whose fault is that?
So what makes you? But a lot of guys. It's Mike Hamilton's fault. It's Dave Hart's fault. It's John Curry's fault. Now it's Philip Fulmer's fault. And again,
Fulmer had to do save job.
Zach,
to be fair,
here's
what mess.
I just listed 7 names. That's been since 2010, Zach. 7 names, 3 head coaches and 4 ADs. That's the problem. That's why Auburn's a better job than Tennessee.
Right, but like Philip Fulmer, I don't put him in this. Now, I think Philip Fulmer, because he had to clean up a mess.
Yeah, and then a
backdoor mess.
Right.
Everybody had told Tennessee no because John Curry had screwed the pooch. Their chancellor who was there is no longer there, right?
Bev,
bye Bev. And Fulmer just had to be like, well, I mean, who you got 2 guys? Who are the 2 guys that it was between Pruitt and who else?
Mel Tucker who's now at Michigan State after going to Colorado, and Kevin Steele, who's up for the Auburn job.
So you're not dealing with you've got a possible top tier program in Tennessee as far as fan base and money and boosters and facilities, but you're asking, it's like again, I compare it to it's like a 10 going after a 6. That's just what it is. Like that's what Tennessee's been dealing with, or what Phil Fulmer was. He's at the party and all the hot dates are gone.
At that point in 2017, yes.
Right? So now start over and go get the hottest thing out there, because next year you're going to be at the same party, but Michigan and Texas are going to be there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like, you're making good points. I agree with the points that you're saying, but I still think because of Tennessee's internal dysfunction, Auburn's a better job. Because like you're saying all these things that are right, but that's what's keeping Tennessee not where they need to be. And Auburn is making the correct decisions, and they're paying for them, showing the financial commitment to do it the right way.
It's just because 8 years was too long, right?
Well, yeah, everybody has their expiration clause,
and
right?
and that was what theirs was.
Yeah. All right. A to Z Sports here live. We got a big audience talking about this. Look, I Hugh Freeze, again, just to reiterate the rumors, Hugh Freeze from multiple people is reportedly not in play for Auburn. Kevin Steele has emerged as the leading candidate for Auburn, and that Hugh Freeze is waiting for Tennessee. Again, those are rumors and reports that we have discussed on the show today.
Before we move on, I think a very interesting conversation with Vandy. Austin, we got a great audience right now. What do you think will happen? Not should. What do you think Phil Fulmer will do after the Texas A&M game and the dust settles, the season is over? What do you think happens?
So there is opportunity for Phil Fulmer to fire Pruitt after this game. So here's what here's the timeline. Tomorrow,
what do you think will happen, though?
Yeah, I'm going to get to there. Tomorrow is December 16th. That is the opening of the early signing period. I think Tennessee will do fine for the most part on that, and they will get guys to sign the dotted line before the A&M game. I think the A&M game, the Jeremy Pruitt fired spread is 29.5. How about that? You like this?
What's the real spread?
The real spread, I believe, was 14 that I saw.
That's what I would assume.
But the Jeremy Pruitt fired spread is 29.5.
I kind of love it.
You kind of love this? Yeah, I might put this out on Twitter after this. So if Jeremy Pruitt covers the 29.5 fired spread, I think he sticks around. If Jeremy Pruitt gets blown out by 30 or more, I think that's where Phil Fulmer can say, you're 3-7. All 7 losses have been an embarrassment to the brand of Tennessee Volunteer football. All 7 of them.
You've made B-Hall stop watching the sport.
Yes. And B-Hall says there's no way that isn't a 4-score game. And that's why I put the spread at where it's at, 29.5. I love my fired spread. I love it. And I just came up with this off the top of my head.
And here is the benefit. Texas A&M has a 34% chance to make the college football playoff. Okay, and I saw that on a graphic. I don't know specifically, right?
Yeah,
but
like football power index stuff. Yeah.
Things have to happen. But that percentage gives them hope, right? And crazy things have happened. Florida, I didn't think was going to lose to LSU.
Florida had a lot of guys out. Now they were out without no excuses. They shouldn't have lost to LSU. But A&M absolutely has everything to play for in this game. That's why I think Jimbo Fisher is going to do whatever he can to impress the committee by blowing out Tennessee.
But let's talk about crazy things. Like USC, I don't think has played enough games. I don't think they deserve it. So Texas A&M has, if let's say Notre Dame beats Clemson. Clemson's out because they've got 2 losses. Let's say by the grace of God, Northwestern beats Ohio State. End of discussion. Texas A&M has got to go. They have to go. So there's some hope of Pruitt gets fired. I'm going to go out on a limb, Austin. I'm going to say it. I think, and I've changed. And I usually don't flip-flop, but I think a lot has changed.
Okay. It's learning more information and adapting. It's not flip-flopping.
I think Tennessee's going to fire Jeremy Pruitt and hire Hugh Freeze. I have no inside information. I just think that it's come to this point. And if Phil Fulmer truly knew, and I talked about this earlier, take the temperature of the room. It will tell you everything that you need to know. And I think as you understand, and if Phil Fulmer truly understood the Tennessee fan base, which he should be the number one guy. I've said this all along. When I think of Tennessee, I think about Phil Fulmer. He's the number one guy. That's the first guy that pops into my head. It's not T. Martin. It's not anybody else. It's Phil Fulmer. He needs to understand that this is a big decision. Don't go to the dance next year with Texas and Michigan, pal. Find your date this year. And that is Hugh Freeze. I think he wants it. I think it's a redemption. And I think it's the best thing possible for the university. That's my prediction.
I honestly, man, I hope so much that you are correct. And again,
29.5, I agree with, though. He's got to lose. He can't keep it close. They're not going to fire him if, it's a 7-point game.
Yeah. And Zach Reagan wrote this at our website, and that if Tennessee happens to beat A&M, that justifies keeping Pruitt around. 4-6 with a top 5 win at the end of the season. Yeah, that guarantees you keep Pruitt around, and you can sell that. You can justify that because a quarterback not named Jarrett Garantano is the author of that victory, hypothetically.
And Chief Franco says, make this decision based on the possibility of firings next year. No. Jim Harbaugh ain't going to be there, bud. Like, we know that. The Michigan fan base hates him. They don't like him anymore. Texas, the expectations are too high. It's kind of like Tennessee. There's just too much money involved. I think Tom Herman is liked, but you got to win games to be really liked, to be loved. And he hasn't been able to do that consistently. So I'm not saying base it off of next year, but Tennessee, I mean, you've done it enough, right? You've been, as I talk about the dance is going to find a new partner, going to find a new head coach.
Right.
You've been to the dance too many times and have gotten, I don't know, the drippings. Don't take the drippings. Take the cream.
All right, Zach. Let's talk about this Vandy hire. Let's get everybody's prediction, or I'm sorry, one word to describe what you think about Vandy hiring Clark Lee as head coach. And let's discuss this because I think this is going to be a really good conversation. What's one word to describe Vandy's hire of Clark Lee as their football coach? But first, tell the people about the Tucker Agency.
Yeah, TuckerTN.com. If you're in the state of Tennessee, he can help you out. His team can help you out. Will Tucker at TuckerTN.com. They do life insurance, homeowners insurance, renters insurance, car insurance. You're driving a car, they can do that. Plus, he'll bundle this together. The average customer that emails Will at TuckerTN.com saves 20%. 20% on your insurance. You're paying $1,000. It's $200 back in your pocket. They can help you out. All you have to do is email, hey, heard about you on A to Z Sports. How do I save money on my insurance? That's Will, W-I-L-L, at TuckerTN.com.
A to Z Sports. Don't forget, again, mybookie.ag. Use our code MyTitans, and you get money back when you deposit for the first time. Code MyTitans at mybookie.ag. The question is, what's one word to describe Vanderbilt hiring Clark Lee as its head coach? And cool from Donald. Donald is probably the Vandy fan that watches our show.
He's the real OG.
Yes, he's a real OG A to Z. A to Z OG Donald, who is a Vandy fan to his core, but also respects us, and we appreciate that. Donald says, cool. I'd like you to expand on that. G-Man on base says soft. Let's see. Decent from Rubel. Chief Franco says consistent. Rob says mediocre. Chuck says safe. Puka says cool. Puka also a Vandy fan who watches A to Z, as is Cody. And I know Cody and I have gone back and forth a couple times today, but I'm glad Cody's here because I value Cody's opinion when it comes to this topic. And he says appropriate. Let's see. Cautious. Puka adds another one. Okay, coming in from Alex. Solid. A typical. It's a cool hire, not a hot hire. Head scratching from our guy Ronnie. Zach Goodman says horrible. Mark Beach says Vandying. Expected from Caleb. Meh from Lance. Boring from Randy. Donald does expand. He says he's quality hire, but isn't the flashiest hire. So, Zach, I'll let you go. Well, should I go ahead or you want me to?
I mean, I could go. I have mine. I have mine locked and loaded.
Okay.
Because this, and somebody has used my word, it's the right word. This is a typical Vanderbilt hire. That's all it is. And we shouldn't be surprised about it, right? Don't get out of your own way. Don't think that Vanderbilt's going to do something that is going to astronomically change the course and landscape of their football program. They did that with James Franklin. The Vandy rape case made every booster rethink that decision. And that's the fact. We're in Nashville. We know what's going on. But Clark Lee makes so much sense for Vanderbilt. You have an athletic director that is, let's just say, breaking down barriers as a female athletic director that is well respected, I think, within the Vanderbilt community. But Clark Lee makes too much sense. We were and now looking back on it, Austin, we were naive. That's what you and I were. Naive to think that Will Healy was going to get the job because he didn't have the credentials that Vanderbilt was looking for.
He's got more credentials than Clark Lee does.
No, he does not.
Yes, he absolutely does.
Full BS. I would almost slip because that's complete and utter BS. Where has Will Healy been?
Austin Peay and Charlotte as a head coach.
Exactly.
As a head coach.
Austin Peay and Charlotte. And that's just where Will Healy is. We've met Will Healy. He's a really nice guy. I respect him. I wanted him to get the Vanderbilt job. But there was no way in hell he was going to get in because he didn't have the credentials that Vanderbilt was looking for. It's just a fact.
So what is Vanderbilt looking for?
Clark Lee?
Derek Mason 2.0?
They're looking for Clark Lee in the sense of where has he been? He has been around UCLA, very comparable in Vanderbilt's regard as far as educational status and kind of sports stature because they hadn't been very good at basketball or football over the last several years. He's been at Syracuse, very similar to Vanderbilt. He's been at Wake Forest, very similar to Vanderbilt. And he's been at Notre Dame. And this was the year that you can get a respectable defensive coordinator from Notre Dame who is in the college football playoff conversation, who is a national powerhouse that is a notable commodity to come in and represent an educational institution, not an athletic institution. That's the difference. So I'm not surprised at all. This makes so much Vandy sense.
My word, Zach, was also typical because this is what Vandy basically hired the next version of the guy they just fired. And look, do I think Clark Lee is a good football coach? Yeah, he probably is. I don't know that much about him, just like I didn't know that much about Derek Mason when he was, but the resumes are the exact same. They were a position coach. Derek Mason was DBs. Clark Lee was linebackers at several stops. They got 3 years as defensive coordinator at prestigious universities, Stanford and Notre Dame. They had really good defenses and a lot of success in their 3 years as defensive coordinator. Then they get the Vandy job, and it's different. Vandy, I get, is different. The only thing that is different in Lee and Mason is that Lee went to NBA down the road from Vandy. He played baseball at Belmont for a year, and he played football at Vandy for 2 years. So he understands the program. I think Vanderbilt could have done a lot worse than Clark Lee, but Vanderbilt missed a massive opportunity to go get somebody who can change their program from what they've been.
They don't want to.
Which means they're going to continue to be Vanderbilt.
Yes. That's good news for Tennessee fans.
And so here's what I know about this. Because I talk to somebody on the phone, text nearly every night about this job. I know this. Tim Corbin was very involved in this search, and Tim Corbin was a big advocate of Clark Lee. I know boosters were big advocates of Will Healy, including the Hand family. I'll name names. The Hand family was a big advocate of Will Healy. Now, Candace Story Lee has to raise $150 million more to finish the plan that they have for facilities. Boosters are probably going to be less excited about this because they didn't get the guy that they wanted who is going to market. Vanderbilt has an apathetic fan base right now. They needed somebody to bring juice. Clark Lee, while a good football coach, no juice and no head coaching experience, and he's another defensive coordinator. You've got the most important hire that Clark Lee has is the offensive coordinator, and I don't know who he's going to get. They missed on this hire because they did the same damn thing of what they just did.
And they expect a different result. Or maybe
right,
they don't.
right. Like maybe I think Clark Lee will be better than Derek Mason. I do. But that doesn't mean it's the right thing for Vanderbilt. Your standard should not be better than Derek Mason. That should not be it.
You brought something up interesting. You said that Clark Lee, he played at Vanderbilt from 2002 to 2004, right? So he played under Bobby Johnson.
2 seasons.
Right, yeah. So he played under Bobby Johnson, right? So you were like, well, he knows what the Vanderbilt program is. Well, Clark Lee, Vanderbilt's those 2 years, they were 2-10. They didn't win both years, right? They were trash. They were awful. This is the issue, is that excitement. It goes back to excitement. Vanderbilt fans, boosters, really the people that make the money that would love, and Vanderbilt is different, right? So Tennessee fans, they are going to buy in every single year with hope because they've seen good football before. Now, it hadn't been consistent, but Vanderbilt, it's been a long time since they've seen quality football. But Vanderbilt boosters for all around the country, if they start playing well, they'll start jumping back on board and giving money.
They've already raised $150 million. They need 300. Like they need to put in place the plans that they have for facilities. They need to double what they've already got.
Right. And I think this is all about and you go back to reputation of priors. This is Clark Lee experiencing Wake Forest, Vanderbilt, UCLA, Notre Dame, and Syracuse.
While I understand that, several of those programs are no good. Syracuse, Wake Forest, no good.
It's not about the programs.
It's about Power 5?
No, it's just about the names. It's about the educational institution.
How about this? How about this educational? Like what Vanderbilt right now is what?
But you can't be surprised. They don't care about football, Austin.
I know, but
they didn't yesterday, and they don't now.
And that's why I think we both agree they hired the wrong guy.
No, they didn't hire the wrong guy for them. They don't want to win,
right? Which means
so you can't. I can't judge them based on my idea of winning when it's nothing what their idea of winning is. Right? So you got to kind of put yourself in their own shoes.
I get that. But you also, and Houston says, how is he the wrong guy? Because you're just running it back. You're doing the same, Vanderbilt's going to be in the same situation 5 years from now. They're going to be talking about Clark Lee. He can't take the next step. Has he recruited better? I don't know. What you're also saying, Zach, is in Clark Lee's professional career, how often has he recruited SEC states?
None. I mean, Wake Forest probably the closest job.
Yeah, but that's North Carolina, not an SEC state. Now it's close, but not.
Yeah, that's right.
So what do you have to do? You have to recruit, damn it. And Will Healy knows how to recruit this state. And
he didn't have the resume,
but he should. And that's where people. Somebody tweeted this.
He did.
Simon Gibbs works for the Vandy Hustler, the student publication that's really respectable at Vandy. And he was saying, talking about Will Healy as a sub 500 head coach. That's like looking at a box score and judging how the game went. You cannot look at and judge Will Healy based on his overall record because you're missing out what happened at Austin Peay.
But Vanderbilt needs more because you know what? Will Healy, if he would have come in and been the next head coach, he would have gotten frustrated.
And Houston's saying compared to Will Healy, who's barely coached college football, Will Healy's been a head coach for 5 years.
Yeah, but not at the same standard.
I get that, but the cleanup.
You don't get that.
I do get that. A lot of people don't.
No, you don't get that because Will Healy, he would have false expectations for Vanderbilt if he came in there wanting to win. We know Will Healy. He wants to win. He wants to win football.
Puka says Vanderbilt has to recruit all over. No, Vanderbilt needs to recruit Nashville. There's a dude down at Franklin High School who's 6'6", 320 pounds, who's going where? Stanford. Why is that guy going to Stanford when he's right down the road?
So maybe that's why they hired Clark Lee.
Because he has connection to that guy? You know who does?
He's a Nashville guy.
Oh, man.
He does have connections. He's a Nashville. He is a unicorn. He's one of us. He's a unicorn. There's not many of us. Your silence tells me everything. It's correct.
My silence is
Will
because
Healy coming in here would have false expectations for Will Healy. He would want the program to be so much more than it will ever be. And I think
at least
he experienced the 2-10 season coming to college.
I'd rather have a guy with what you said about Will Healy than a guy who understands that 2-10.
You would, but you're not a Vanderbilt person. You're a different breed. You come from a different cut. That's just what it is. It's okay.
It doesn't make, like, they whiffed on an opportunity. And I don't know.
Are you surprised? The results are in? No.
Clark Lee was always going to be a top guy they went after, but they're doing the same thing.
Well, and it was a perfect timing, right? Timing is sometimes better than anything in the world. Notre Dame is a top 5 team. He's getting notoriety because he's the defensive coordinator. He was on the main stage when Clemson had the overtime loss to Notre Dame. He's a Vanderbilt guy. Everything is justified by this hire for Vanderbilt.
That's why we both went with the word typical. Like, Vandy needed to step out. What'd you ask me? I'm sorry. I was talking.
Don't expect different when it comes to Vanderbilt.
Jab says that we're more passionate than Vandy fans. Like, I'm passionate. I am passionate about this because I thought Vanderbilt had a unique opportunity to do something different and make its football program relevant locally. Like, we, Zach, are A to Z Sports Nashville. We are Nashville's on-demand sports talk network. We cover Nashville, and we cover what Nashville cares about. We've talked about Vanderbilt football how many times this football season? Once because we knew their AD, their athletic department administration didn't want to play the season. Another time because they were having issues. We talked about the firing of Derek Mason. We've talked about the head coaching search twice. Like, Vanderbilt does not have a beat in Nashville.
But Austin, look at the history of Vanderbilt over the course of the last 7 or 10 years. Let's say this. Every time they've tried to do something different, they've gotten burned. They tried to go hire James Franklin. They won games. Vandy rape case, bad look for the educational institution. They go and hire a new athletic director after David Williams, the late David Williams, leaves. Who was that athletic director?
Oh, yeah, the G League guy, Malcolm Turner.
Exactly. Malcolm Turner. What happened with him? He spent a bunch of money that he shouldn't have spent. It was a terrible terrible move, Austin. It was. So they went and did something different, and they got burned for it.
Franklin was a burn because of why? Because of the rape case?
Yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure.
And please argue that. Please. I would love to hear somebody saying that Vanderbilt and their board of directors enjoyed having national news about their university.
No.
But the football player raped a student.
The
football player.
The rape case, absolutely. But James Franklin showed you what could happen here.
But they sold their soul and they got the devil's juice.
I mean, you're saying that's how Vandy is taking it.
Yes.
But now go get a guy who's not like James Franklin is as sleazy as it gets. Healy is not the sleaze level of James Franklin whatsoever, but you get a guy who cares.
But you're going to come further back to the mean of what you know, and that is Clark Lee.
And it's just a bad hire. It's not what they should have done. It was the easy decision. Clark Lee was the easy decision.
I just call him like I see him. And look, I have no ties to Vanderbilt. I've watched Vanderbilt basketball, football, baseball because I'm a unicorn like you are, Austin, here for a very long time. And I can't expect them to do things differently. So I stopped.
So from what I know, from who I've talked to about this, it felt like Vanderbilt's decision was Clark Lee the entire way. That they knew once they fired Derek Mason, they were going to most likely hire Clark Lee. And they did not give people outside of that, which there was a lot of interest. Todd Monken from Army, very interested. Will Healy would have walked here from Charlotte. and other guys too, like
He
Charles
just-
Huff from
he
Alabama.
does-
There was a lot of interest in this job, and they went with the guy that they predetermined, which is not how you need to do coaching hires.
That's how Vanderbilt did.
Nate's right. Let's go. Sports trivia. We're an hour, 15 minutes into this thing, and we've got at least 20 minutes left because of our rapid fire takes too long trivia Tuesday here on the show. Before we go into our trivia, guys, we need your help. We went 7-3 last week. We need to go 8-2 together. We got 10 trivia questions that you guys are involved in. We need your help with this. But first, let me tell you guys about Mandu, the Pulse of Fitness, where Mandu workouts, they take 15 minutes. It's shorter than these trivia sessions. Mandu.com, your first workout's free. It's full body electronic muscle stimulation, which is real science and real results. I've completely transformed my body with what Mandu has shown me. I've got friends I got one friend in particular who had a back injury this summer, couldn't lift or work out anymore. Now he's doing Mandu and he's seeing great results after like 3 sessions. Mandu.com, your first workout, absolutely free. So go check it out. It's that time of year where everybody's going to say, all right, I'm going to get fat in Thanksgiving and getting fat in December for Christmas, and I'm going to start in January. Go ahead and sign up for Mandu. Your first workout's free. Get on there to have your 2021 start better than what this year's been. Mandu.com, your first workout is absolutely free.
A to Z Sports. It is trivia time. I got to dig a little deeper. We've answered at least over 100 questions of this trivia, so I got to really search and find. But we were 7-3. That is confirmed.
Yeah, 7-3 last week.
All right. So for everybody new to this, Tuesday we do trivia, and this is a team game. There's no Googling. It's all up here, but we together as an A to Z Sports group try to answer these questions. So let's start with this is a medium one, but I think we can get it.
Okay.
What term is used in describing a situation where a golfer scores 8 on a hole?
Snowman.
And let's also reiterate, when we say you have to say final answer A to Z for it
Correct.
to be locked in.
Correct. Yeah. Snowman. I've had plenty.
Are we good with snowman?
I mean, we'll let the answers come in. Everybody's answering the snowman. It's a great, nice time of the year for that. So snowman, final A to Z.
Snowman is the term to use. So that was correct. I felt good about that. All right. This is very hard.
Monsoon. Should we start going Jeopardy style and say what is snowman?
Maybe so. All right. So this is a very hard question, and I have no idea. Rapper Eminem mentions which NFL head coach in his 1999 track "Just Don't Give an F-U-C-K"?
Oh, God.
This is a real question. I'll repeat it, okay? Rapper Eminem, the real Slim Shady, mentions which NFL head coach in his 1999 track "Just Don't Give an F." This is labeled as very hard as well.
So Marty says, I'm sorry, Donald says Marty Schottenheimer, final A to Z. And I was thinking Puka was something right. He said the Lions coach because Eminem tied to Detroit. But Marty, I mean, we've got Donald and Ronnie coming in quick with Marty Schottenheimer.
Glanville is funny though.
That is funny.
I think Marty's right.
Well, it's because he can probably say Schottenheimer and a lot of other. You can rhyme that a lot, right? Like that fits where you can have a lot of creativity with Schottenheimer that I'm not even going to try to go with. But Marty Schottenheimer, final A to Z.
Marty Schottenheimer.
Right?
The line is cursing at you players worse than Marty Schottenheimer.
Interesting. All right. So we're 2-0.
Next one. Who is the only person to have won a Super Bowl as a player, as an assistant coach, and as a head coach? Very hard. That's what it's labeled as. This is a tough one. I'll read it one more time. Who is the only person to have won a Super Bowl as a player, as an assistant coach, and as a head coach?
Oh, Mike Ditka.
Cowboys, Bears.
Tony Dungy would also be really good too.
Tony Dungy played for the Steelers. Assistant coach. Who's he the assistant of?
I think it's Ditka. I think Ditka, as somebody said that, a lot of people have said Ditka. That feels correct.
Ditka does sound good.
Ditka sounds really good right now. It's definitely Ditka or Dungy because there's only one, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Ditka final A to Z. I think that's the correct thing.
The correct answer is Mike Ditka.
All right, guys, good job.
Player with the Cowboys, an assistant coach with the same club, and a head coach for the Chicago Bears in 1985.
There you go. Good job, guys. Good job, guys. All right, 3-0. Let's keep rolling.
That was pretty good. Okay, so I don't know if we've had a Serena question, but I don't know if we've had this one.
Okay.
When did female American tennis legend Serena Williams win her first major tennis championship?
We have not had this one.
When did female American tennis legend Serena Williams win her first major tennis championship?
I want to say 98 was the first year that popped into my mind. So I'll wait to see some 99 from Monsoon, 96 from Mookie. 2000. We've got 2003 from Louis, Hugh, and Joseph.
This is tough. I mean,
we're all dancing around it. 2003 is the most popular answer, and was also the first answer from Louis.
I think. Do we want to go with that as our final?
Yeah, we'll go with you guys. The 2003 final A to Z.
The correct answer is 1999. At just 17 years old, Serena Williams became a U.S. Open championship winner, winning her first major tennis tournament in the process.
All right, so now we are 3-1, right?
Dang, that was
we can only miss one more. Let's go get 6 in a row.
All right, let's go to another first. Which year did American legendary golfer Tiger Woods win his first Masters tournament?
Masters. That feels like 98.
That was my initial guess, would be 98. First Masters tournament championship for Tiger Woods. Or was it later? We're kind of dancing all over the place on the comments, at least.
Yeah, 97, 2000, 01, 98, 99, 04, 98, 98, 99s, 97. We're getting a lot of 97s. We've got Bobby says he's mostly guessing. Dustin feels very confident. 98 from Dom feels very confident. Mark says 97, he was there. So we've got multiple confident 97s. And yeah, so 97, I think, let's go 1997. I think that sounds right.
The correct answer is 1997.
Attaboy, guys. Good job.
At a tender age of only 21 years old. God, Can you imagine 21 and winning the Masters?
No.
Unreal.
No. Neither can Isaiah Wilson, man.
So what are we?
4-1. We need 5 in a row. Well, we can miss one more, but let's not do that.
All right, next question. In 2015, which NBA player broke the record for most points scored in a single quarter? This is tough.
Klay Thompson. Right? Didn't Klay Thompson have like 37 points in a quarter?
I want to say you're right. In 2015, that's the height of the Warriors.
And we got Klay. Yeah, Houston came in quick with Klay Thompson. I think Klay Thompson's right. We've got multiple Clays. I think we got to go with Klay Thompson here. He had 8 threes or something like that. Yeah. Klay Thompson? We good with that, Zach? You're the NBA guy.
I think that's correct.
Klay Thompson, final answer, A to Z?
Klay Thompson is correct. 37 points.
I even got the points number right. That's like me and my 2,000. That's like me and my 2,000-yard rushers yesterday.
All right, we've got a very hard question next.
All right, so we are what? We are
5-1.
5-1.
Very hard coming up. Paul D. Hubbard is the quarterback who is credited with inventing the modern huddle. What affliction did he suffer from?
What?
Paul D. Hubbard is the quarterback who is credited with the invention of the modern huddle.
Hearing loss.
What affliction did he suffer from?
Hearing loss. He was hearing impaired. That's why they huddled. Guarantee. Yes.
I mean, it makes a ton of sense.
Yes. Final A to Z.
Final A to Z?
Yeah.
The correct answer, if I got to click back on it, is hearing loss.
Yeah.
Deafness. Suffered deafness.
Yeah. So there we go. G-Man on base says stuttering. Oh, man.
Right 24. White or white, 2 banana. I didn't know that. I learned something.
Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah.
That's why
my late uncle, real quick, a little Austin family history. My late uncle, who passed away a couple years ago with
Down. Was he the first huddle?
No, but he was with my Uncle Mike with Down syndrome, who passed away a few years ago. Was Down syndrome, also deaf. He actually helped coach football when he was younger because they had there was a kid on the football team who was deaf, and he would sign language the kid to play, which I thought was cool too. So
yeah, that is cool. Oh, that's kind of the start of. I remember in backstory of middle school. Now it looks stupid, but they would call in the plays, and a fly would be this signal, like. How like the other team knows that fly, but I guess you're talking to like 7th and 8th graders.
Yeah. You gotta have it. All right. So 6-1. We've got 3 left. Let's roll through.
So here's the next question: who was the NFL's 2016 Offensive Rookie of the Year?
2016.
This is right up your alley.
That was the draft of Jared Goff and Carson Wentz. Was that Alvin Kamara? Or was it Christian McCaffrey?
It wasn't Christian McCaffrey. But we got the offensive play. I mean,
Christian McCaffrey was no. Those two guys were Dak Prescott. Wait, let's think. Kamara, Kamara and McCaffrey were 2017 draft. Ezekiel Elliott, we're getting a lot of Zeke answers. Because this was Zeke's 5th year. This was Dak's 5th year, correct? This season. So 20.
They franchise tagged him, but
right.
he was a 2nd round or a late round pick, so he didn't get a 5th year.
So this was so 20, 19, 18, 17, 16. So Zeke and Dak were in the same draft, correct?
I think Zeke was better than Dak that year.
And we're getting 1,000. I think it's Dak. I think it's Dak. Quarterback award, man. It's a 3rd round pick quarterback or 4th round pick quarterback taking over.
It's Zeke. I'm almost positive. Trust me on this. I know Cowboys. I am 99% sure that it is Ezekiel Elliott.
All right, this is on you then.
I'll take it. It is on me. The
Okay.
correct answer is no. It's Dak.
I told you.
Zeke won an award though.
Probably like offense. I don't know what he won, but Dak.
Gosh, I want
Quarterback award, dude. Come on. You know you're better than that. I know the Cowboys.
He led the NFL in rushing.
Yeah, but Dak plays quarterback. Come on. Always go with a quarterback,
He was
Shrike said.
first team All Pro.
Well, sorry. Sorry about you. Okay. So we're 6-2. We've got 2 questions left. Let's go. We have to get both of these.
Pete Sampras, legendary tennis player. What nation is he from?
I thought he was American.
That's what I thought.
Andre Agassi was not. Pete Sampras, I thought, was American. Come on, give me some USAs so I can feel better about myself. France? I think he's American. Yeah, everybody's saying USA. He's the last, because everything's like, yeah, Andy Roddick is the best, American tennis player since Pete Sampras. And then Andy Roddick wasn't that good. It's United States.
Is that what we're going with?
Yeah, I think it's a trick question because it's making us think too hard. United States. Yes, final A to Z.
United States.
Okay, all right. 7-2.
All right, to end the question, to end this, so we're 7-2. God,
yeah.
Dang it.
You ruined it, Zach.
I'm kicking myself about Zeke. All pro. He was all pro. All right, so this is something I don't know, but it goes to a very similar question we just answered. What country was Kyrie Irving born in?
Canada?
I don't know it.
There was a run on Canadian players in the NBA. Monsoon just says hell. Oh man, I think Kyrie.
The Earth is flat.
I think Kyrie was born in Canada.
It would go to why he's so strange.
Yeah, because Canadians are strange. Yeah, totally right. Just like that one dude on Twitter saying that all Georgia players have off the field problems. That's what you basically just said.
I mean, there's some strange. There's strange.
We're getting a lot of Australia answers though, which is weird.
Melbourne.
Was he like a army brat?
I don't think it's Canada because I like Andrew Wiggins.
There
was he? Look, he went to Duke. I know that, and he had a foot injury, which withheld him from playing most of that year. Then he went to the draft. He was the first pick in the draft by the Cleveland Cavaliers. It's not Canada because Andrew Wiggins was the first Canadian #1 overall pick.
There was who was the other dude that busted even worse than that was also Canadian that was #1 overall pick? Awful. He was from
Anthony Bennett?
Yes. UNLV. Yeah, but he was Canadian too because they were back-to-back Canadian #1 picks.
I'm worried about the Georgia #1 Anthony Edwards this year. I don't have a good feeling about it.
Man, why is everybody saying all right, let's
I think Australia makes
I think we have to go with Australia.
About Canada. I know
military
it's not
brat? Well, he's definitely a brat, Puka, but military brat maybe makes sense.
I think it's Australia.
All right, let's go to Australia.
Good eye, Mike. Let's see what the answer is. Australia.
Hey! What a day. 8-2. Zach kept us from going 9-1. Good job, team.
But I did keep us going 8-2 instead of 7-3 because he wasn't from Canada, eh?
Well, we still talk through it. What else? So what did we miss? We missed, obviously, besides your damn it.
Serena and
the Serena year. The Serena year was tough. So look, we should have gone 9-1, but So as we've been live for over 93 minutes. So let's just go ahead and send us to the end of the show by Zach reading Brett's comment.
Let's put another shrimp on the barbie. Oh, yeah. Good eye, mate. That's exactly what we're going to do, Brett.
Okay. All right. Y'all have a great rest of your Tuesday. We'll be back tomorrow morning. I think my favorite shade. We have 2 great shades from me tomorrow on the show. 2 great ones. All right, guys. Have a great rest of your Tuesday. Buck will be back for primetime tonight. Don't forget, the A to Z Sports Podcast Network. The Big Orange Podcast is cannot miss this week. Buck's got a new podcast out as well this morning. So we'll see you guys later on. Thanks for watching.